Hi everyone. Now we are going to discuss a topic called food quality assessment or food quality evaluation, in which we are going to discuss about the several methods of this quality assessment of foods. Evaluation of foods involves instrumentation and use of physical and chemical techniques to evaluate our food quality. And this food quality is going to have both subjective and non-subjective aspects. So these are all things that we will discuss in detail in this video. Let's begin. Evaluation of food quality is going to be the ultimate criterion of the desirability of any food product that we are taking. And this food quality is going to be evaluated by either by the sensory methods, or we call it as a sensory evaluation, or by the objective methods, or by objective evaluation. So what is a sensory evaluation? When the quality of food product is assessed by means of human sensory organs, then such type of the evaluation is said to be sensory or subjective. So we can also call it as subjective or sensory evaluation. That means if you are going to evaluate the food quality by your senses, that means either the smell, taste, like that, then we call such type of the evaluation as sensory evaluation. Then moving to the objective evaluation. So here the methods of evaluating the food quality depends on some measures other than the human senses. That means you are going to measure the food quality other than the human senses are going to be called as objective methods of evaluation. So these methods of evaluation of food quality by sensory evaluation and by objective evaluation we will discuss in detail now. Let's move to the first one, sensory evaluation. So already we have discussed, if you are going to evaluate the quality of a food product by means of your senses or human sensory organs, then that type of the sensory evaluation method is also going to be called as subjective evaluation or sensory evaluation or assessment. Now, what are the characteristics of the food that we are going to determine by this sensory evaluation? Means, first of all, the first one is appearance. The surface characteristics of food products contribute to the appearance. For example, the scrambled egg with a very dry surface is not acceptable. Then the internal appearance can also be evaluated, okay, and lumps in the pudding or gravy which are not desirable and can be judged by the eye. And the perception of size, shape, color, transparencies can judge by external appearance. For example, quality of sweet limes can be found out by appearance. That means if the skin is thin, it is going to be juicy. If the skin is thick, it is going to be of less juicy. And the fish quality can be ascertained by the brightness of the eyes of the fish. So this is how you are going to assess the food quality by its appearance. Then moving to the color. In addition to giving pleasure, the color of foods is associated with other attributes, and color is going to be used as an index to the quality of a number of foods. For example, ripenings of fruits like banana, mango, tomato, guava can be assessed by the color only. Then flavor, that means the smell, taste, odor, all these things. So flavor of the food has three components, that is odor, taste, and the composite of sensations known as mouthfeel. So odor, food contributes immeasurably to the pleasure of eating, and the aroma is able to penetrate even beyond the visual range when comparatively volatile compounds are abundant in it. Then taste, we value food for its taste, obviously, and the sensation known as sour is associated with hydrogen ions supplied by acids like vinegar. And the salt taste is due to the ions of salt, and the sweet taste is related to the presence of organic compounds. Then mouthfeel. The texture and consistency can be found out by mouthfeel. Hotness or burning sensation of pepper can also be found out by our mouthfeel only. So this mouthfeel is going to depend upon the temperature, texture, and the tenderness of the product. So this are going to be the different aspects or methods by which the sensory evaluation is involved in finding out the food quality. Then physiological factors, in order to the color, taste and mouthfeel, certain psychological factors also contribute to the acceptability of foods. And food is going to be accepted when there is a pleasant association. So psychologically also, if we are very dull or in a happy mood, so we will taste something different. And if you're having any fever or illness or some sort of psychological disaffects, then you can't taste it and you cannot judge it properly. Then what are the reasons for testing the food quality? Why should we test? So because to know the consumer preference, the effect of variation in processing on quality, to detect the presence of off quality. That means to know the consumer preference. This helps the producer to discover which qualities of the product need to be developed and emphasized. And the consumer's preference panel tests the product and the results are considered to be present, the test of the significant portion of the population, and are used to predict market outlook for a product. Then effect of variation in processing on quality. Tests are done to investigate the influence of factors in the production. The members of the panel are not required to taste the product, but it is also used to test the effects of storage and packing of two items originally alike but subjected to different storage environment. Then the third one, to detect the presence of off quality. Here, the panel members are usually trained to recognize and evaluate the standard flavors of food so that they can use their powers of discrimination consistently. For example, rancidity in fats and butter. Then conducting the sensory evaluation. So here in the conducting of sensory evaluation, we require a panel of judges are going to be selected, and these judges are supposed should be unbiased for tasting. Then they have to have physical, psychological and environmental conditions should be maintained, as these affects one's judgment, and the sampling has to be done homogeneously. So these are all going to be considered by the judges or in the sensory evaluation. Then what are the different types of these sensory tests? So we are having the different types majorly grouped into 4 types. The first one is going to be of a difference test or discriminations test. The second one is rating test. The third one is sensitivity test. And the fourth one is descriptive test. The selection of a particular test method will depend on the defined objective of the test, and the accuracy is going to be desired and personnel available for the conducting the evaluation. So this accuracy is going to be depend on the desired and personnel one, that means who is going to conduct the evaluation. So how many types of sensory tests are there? 4 types, that is different test, rating test, sensitivity test and descriptive test. So here is a flowchart of all these tests and the subtest of these tests. So in the difference test or discrimination test, we are having again the types that we are using is paired comparison test, due trio test, triangle test. And then in the rating test, we are going to use the hedonic, numerical scoring test and ranking test. Then coming to the sensitivity test, we are going to have the threshold test and dilution test. In the descriptive test, mainly we can have the qualitative method or the quantitative method to assess the food quality. So these things we will discuss in detail now. So the first one is different test, which is also known as discrimination test, and this is going to be carried by a small group of trained judges, and the judges are asked to describe the differences in the sample present to them in any of the following ways, either by the paired comparison test, that means 2 samples in a pair are presented to the panelist, and who is asked to indicate if there is any difference between them. Then due trio test, and here this test uses 3 samples, 2 identical and 1 different, and the panelists have to identify the odd sample, and the chance of probability of placing the sample in a certain order is 1/2. Whereas in the triangle test, it is going to be of 1/3. So this test also uses the three samples, that is two identical and one different, presented simultaneously to the panel, and the judge is asked to determine which of the three is the odd sample. So in the due trio test, they have to identify the odd sample from the two identical, and here they have to determine which of the three is the odd sample. That means they don't know. Since all the samples are unknown, the chance of probability placing the sample in a certain order is 1/3. Okay, so this is all differences. They are finding out the differences in the sample. That's why we call it as a discrimination test or difference test. Then coming to the second type, that is rating test. So here these tests gives more quantitative data than difference test, that is the first one. And rating test can also be used for the analysis of more than two samples at the same time. And this test determines how several samples differ on the basis of a single character. And the panelists have to rank all the samples according to the intensity of the specified characteristic. For example, the rankings have to be given from 1 to 9, where the 1 is going to be dislike extremely, and the 9 is going to refer the like extremely. So like this they are going to rank. So in the rating test, we are going to have the different types again. The first one is going to be the ranking test. Here, the panelists are presenting the ranks of taking the about 2 to 7 samples to rank them in an increasing or decreasing order based on one or more attributes such as flavor, color, or texture. Then hedonic rating test is going to be used to measure the food acceptability by different group of consumers, example school canteens, mess, etc. And the panelist is going to rate the food on 9 or 5 point here on hedonic scale, ranging from like extremely to dislike extremely. So the 9 is going to be of like extremely, and the 1 is going to be of dislike extremely. And this, for children, a facial hedonic scale, the smiley scale, is going to be used. So third one is numerical scoring test. So this score system is used to evaluate the foods. For example, the score of 90 is going to be awarded to excellent quality, while the score of 20 may be assigned to the poor quality product. So they are going to give like this, either 90, 80 good, 70 fair, 60 poor. So like this going on, coming down, you are going to have the poor quality. So this is a scorecard. Then fourth one, composite scoring test. So this is going to have every quality is attributed such as color, consistency, texture, flavor, and then scores are compounded, and the total scores present overall acceptability of the product. So here you can see the possible score, and they will give the sample scores here, and they will check the overall score of it. So which is going to be for the 100%. Okay. So that's all about the ratings test. Then coming to the sensitivity test. So this is going to be done to assess the ability of individual to to detect the different taste, odor, hotness, etc. And for testing this kind of the test, these tests are used to select and train the panel members for evaluating the quality of products containing spices, salt, and sugar. For example, tomato ketchup or the sauce. So we are having again two types here. One is a sensitivity threshold and another one is a dilution test. So here in the sensitivity threshold test, the threshold test means, or it is going to be defined as a statistically determined point on the stimulus scale at which a transition in a series of sensations or judgments occurs. Okay, and there are going to be three types of thresholds tests. They are going to be stimulus detection threshold, second one recognition identification threshold, third one terminal saturation threshold. So this is how we are going to have the three types, and these tests are used where a minimum detectable difference of an additive or of an off flavor are to be established. So this is a scorecard of a sensitivity threshold test. So they are going to give 1 weak, 2 medium, 3 strong, 4 very strong, 5 extremely strong. Then moving to the dilution test. So the dilution tests are designated to establish the smallest amount of an unknown material developed as a substitute for the standard product. For example, dried whole milk in a fresh milk, margarine in butter, etc. And the quality of test material is represented by dilution number. So how much dilution you are going to take. The bigger the dilution number, the better is the quality of the test material. If it is going to be of a 1 by 100 dilution, that is going to be better than the 1 by 10. Okay, so this is all about the third type of the test, that is sensitivity test. Then moving to the descriptive test. So this descriptive test is going to be a qualitative and quantitative description method for flavor analysis in product containing different taste and odors. So here you can see the an example of a flavor profile analysis of tomato ketchup, where garlic 1, then sour 1, chilies 1, smoothness 3, that is the aroma, taste, mouthfeel, texture. So they are going to give the both the quantitative as well as the qualitative description. So this is all about the 4 types of the test that we are going to perform, finding out the food quality by the first method, that is a sensitivity method or subjective method. Then what are the drawbacks and the limitations of this sensory test? Drawbacks. In the sensory evaluation of the food, the affective characteristics is not the property of the food, but the subject's reaction, that means the panel or the judge reaction to the sensory qualities of the food. So that is going to be depend upon the not the food, but it is going to be depend upon the person who is testing it. So this reaction is highly conditioned by a variety of psychological and social factors, and in the final analysis, which plays a vital role in the acceptance and preference of the food. Then what are the limitations of this sensory test? The results may be highly variable. That means some people likes the flavor or the taste is going to be differ, and some others. So that is going to be where the result is going to be highly variable among the panel of judges. Then people with colds or other health problems temporarily lost their maximum effectiveness because of lowering their taste nerves or taste buds. Then emotional burdens may also influence an individual's ability. So I told this also going to affect the tasting property of that concerned person. So these are all going to be the certain limitations of sensory tests. Then the second type of evaluation method is going to be the objective method. So the first one is subjective or sensory evaluation. The second one is objective evaluation. So what is meant by objective evaluation? The finding out or assessment of the food quality other than the human senses are going to be called as objective methods of evaluation. So what are the advantages of these objective evaluation means? That means the results could be of accurate, then the human sensitivity is not involved, that means the senses are not involved, and minute differences can also be noticed by doing objective tests. So here it is a can, it's not cab. So you can detect the minute or you can notice the minute differences in the food, and then the human sensitivity, that means senses are not involved, and the results could be of accurate. And these methods provide the permanent record, so that comparison can be made over a period of time, and they are not going to be affected by factors other than one being measured. Okay, then coming to the disadvantages, so it is a time consuming, expensive, technical knowledge is required. That means the persons have to be trained to take over the objective evaluation for finding out the food quality. Then instruments may not be available sometimes, and some aspects of food cannot be evaluated by objective methods, example flavor. Then moving to the tests used for objective evaluation, so like how we had different methods or what tests that we used for sensitivity evaluation, in the same manner for objective evaluation also we are having several methods. So this consists of various physical, chemical tests to measure physical features such as volume, viscosity, specific gravity, and chemical composition such as nutrients present and pH of the food. And these tests supplement the data obtained through the sensory evaluation. Now coming to the chemical methods. So chemicals are estimated in food spoilage like peroxides in fats, then adulterants in food like presence of starch in milk, metal in yellow in turmeric powder, and loss of nutrients during cooking can be estimated by this chemical methods. Then psychochemical methods or physiochemical methods. So here measurement of hydrogen ion concentration, that means we can find the pH concentration by using the pH meter. Then sugar concentration can be found by refractometer. Then polariscope is used for quantitative analysis of sugar. Then microscopic examination. Some properties of foods depending upon their structure and valuable information can be obtained by microscopic examinations. Like how the fermented products like idli batter, that means which type of the organism is present in the fermented idli batter, then examination of the starch cells, and the spoilage of the food can be found out by observing the organisms under the microscope. And the size of the crystals in the sugar is also related to the smoothness of the product. And the number and size of the air cells in the batters and the foams can be detected by using this microscopic examination. Then coming to the physical methods, so we are going to coming to the physical, we are going to have the weight, which is going to give the food, indicates the quality, like in case of apple or egg. Then volume, liquid volumes can be measured by using the measuring cups, and solid food volume can be found by displacement method. Okay, here the specific volume is going to be the thing which is going to have the displacement with the solvents like kerosene. So the specific volume in general we are going to measure the cups, but if it is the case of solvents like kerosene, then you have to take the bulk volume divided by weight of the substance. Then it gives its specific volume. Then the specific gravity is the measure of the relative density of a substance in relation to that of the water. Then moisture content. Moisture content is equal to the initial weight minus dried weight divided by initial weight of the substance, and into 100 gives to the percentage of the concerned substance content. Then cell structure. This is going to be very important in the baked products to measure the uniformity, size and thickness of the cell walls. Then measurement of the color. Color is the first or quality attribute of a consumer perceives in food, and the change of the color is generally accompanied by flavor changes. So these are the few physical methods where you are going to test all these things for a food quality. Then coming to the instruments used for texture evaluation. So what are the different instruments that we are going to use to find out the texture of different foods? So that we will see now. So various instruments are used to measure the texture of liquids, semisolids and solids. Okay. Rheology is defined as the science of deformation and flow of matter. And this is going to have three aspects, that is elasticity, then viscous flow, then plastic flow. And rheological properties of food is important mainly for two reasons. That is, to determine the flow properties of a liquid foodstuff, and second one is to ascertain the mechanical behavior of solid foods when consumed and during the process. So here the instruments used for liquids and semi-solids, liquids and semi-solids. So in the liquids, obviously we'll go with the viscosity or consistency factor. So measurement of these factors for the raw material or the product at various stages of manufacturing is going to serve as an aid in checking or predicting the consistency of the final product. Further, such quality control measures also serve as an indicators also. So in calculating the amount of an ingredient that should be added in the particular food product. That means once you measure, if it is any deficiency of the concerned raw materials there, then it is going to be added in that particular product to maintain all the things in the proper composition. So here are the list of certain instruments that we are going to use in the measuring or the measurement of viscosity or the consistency factors in the liquids and the semi-liquids. So here is a percent sag. So the percent sag is going to determine the depth of the sample. That means how much of the depth of the sample, such as in a jelly, it is going to measure in its container by using a probe. So we are going to use a probe by know the depth of the jelly. So next, Stormer viscometer, that is Stormer viscometer. This is used to measure the viscosity or consistency of certain foods products and to give an index of the resistance of the sample to flow. Then moving to the Brookfield synchroelectric viscometer. So this is used to measure the resistance to rotation of a spindle impressed in the test material, and this can be used successfully in measuring. That means this Brookfield synchroelectroviscometer is mainly used successfully in measuring the consistency of custards, pie fillings, tomato products, cream style corn, myosin, salad dressings, and dairy products. Then Bostwick consistometer is going to be used to know the consistency or to measure the consistency of tomato ketchup and sauce. Then moving to the Flux tube viscometer is going to use it to measure the time necessary for a quantity of fluid to pass through an what we call as an orifice, that means a small pore, or a capillary under standard pressure. For example, is the tomato puree. Then Adams consistometer is going to be used for measuring the consistency of cream style corn. So where there are possibilities of using it in measuring the consistency of other products also, like tomato puree, apple sauce, and fruit pulps. Then coming to the penetrometer. So this penetrometer is going to be used to measure what we call as tenderness of some foods. Okay, like gels and many baker products are particularly well suited to tenderness measurements using this penetrometer. Then Barbender farinograph instrument, which is used to measure the plasticity of wheat dough that is being used for preparing the bread products. So this is how a few examples of instruments which are being used for the measurement of viscosity or the consistency in the liquids and the semi-liquids. Then moving to the instruments used for solids. So here you can see the food texture can be reduced to measurements of resistance to force. So if we squeeze food so that it remains as one piece, this is called as compression. Example, bread. If we apply a force so that one part of the food slides past another, it is going to be called as shearing. Example, chewing gum. If the forces goes through the food so as to divide it, we'll call it as cutting. Example, cutting an apple. If the force is applied away from the material, the food pulls apart, by which we measure the tensile strength, that is going to be called as chapati. So we are going to have the compression, shearing, cutting, chapati. So these all are going to be related to the solids only. So that we are going to determine by all using these all instruments. Like the first one is Magnus-Taylor pressure tester. So this is going to be mainly used to measure the compression force. Okay, example is a piece. That means whether the piece is suitable of that means suitability of the piece for the harvest, or to find out the correct stage of ripening of a food is going to be known by this Magnus-Taylor pressure tester. Then coming to the succilometer, this is also called as compression and use it to measure the maturity of the corn. So this is a P related and this is the corn related, and the storage quality of apples as determine the volume of juice extracted under controlled condition of pressure and time. Then moving to the tenderometer. So instrument is going to be based on the shearing force. So here it is going to be the shearing force, okay, in which compression is preceded by shearing action. Example, suitability of piece for preservation. Then moving to the fibrometer, it is going to be based on the cutting principle. Okay, so and use it to differentiate mature stocks from the tender stocks. Example is the green apple or green beans. Then shortometer. So this shortometer is going to be a good platform containing a certain type of blades on which sample is going to rest, and a third blade is going to be actuated by a motor to press down on the sample until the sample is going to snap, and the force required to break the sample is a measure of the tenderness of the product. So how much force you are applying? If it is very easy force, then it is very tender, and if you are taking more force, so it is tender is going to be differentiated by the force that you are applying. Then moving to the Waldo-Cavici tenderometer, and another one is a crustal texturometer. So these two meters are mainly used for cutting. This one is going to be used for cutting, and Waldo-Cavici meter is going to be used for both cutting and shearing, especially the meat and the meat products. So next one is going to be the Karmer press method. So this or Karmer shear press. So this is going to be a multi-purpose instrument with the same power unit, and here different test cells assembles, and this is going to be the one of the most widely used instrument. That's why this is going to be of a multi-purpose instrument. Then tensile strength. So it is used to find out the tensile strength of chapati. That means one end of a chapati is attached to a stand, and the other end is going to be attached to a paper glass. Water is added to the cup till the chapati breaks. So the more water required, the tougher is the chapati. So that's how you are going to find the tensile strength of it. So these are all the things that we are using to determine these are the instruments that we are using to determine the quality of the solids. Okay, so we are having other types also, like shear press, Warner battery shear, universal testing machine, then compressimeter. Like this we are going to have the other instruments also, but I gave you a few here so you can go through it. So here is a flow chart which is going to be of an overall of the different types of the physical methods and the chemical methods of this instrument or objective method, where you are going to have the potentiometer is mainly used for measuring the tenderness of the meat. So here it have to come, it's a meat. So you are going to measure the tenderness of the meat. So it's a potentiometer. Then compressimeter is going to be of measuring the firmness or the softness of the cooker meat product, mainly the meat only. Then shortometer determines the texture of baked products like cookies and pastries. Then farinograph is going to determine the consistency of the dough. So like this, every instrument is going to have its own description and which product is going to be tested by that instrument. Then by the chemical methods, we know the nutrient analysis determines the nutrient contents in the food, and the pH meter is going to be used or to show the degree of acidity or alkalinity of the foods, either in the kilocalories or the protein content. So this is all about the food quality assessment or food quality evaluation and the different methods of this food quality evaluation or assessment. So thank you. I hope you all understood well.